Hello everyone, Islam here. Today's use case is that we would like to create 4 accounts and we would like to make sure that they are only created if they don't already exist in Salesforce. If an account already exists, don't create it. In order to use that, we're going to learn subflows as well. So basically, it's important for us to know the subflow and we're going to use it. We don't have to use subflow in this particular case. We can use a collection variable. We will explain a collection variable later on in another video, but this way I'd like to do it with subflows because once you see this and the capabilities of the subflows, it's going to save you tons of hours when you work on more complex flows. So let's, the way this is going to go, we are going to do a quick overview of the master flow and then a quick overview of the subflow. And bear with me if some things don't make sense. After that, we are going to look at a diagram explaining the process that happened between the master flow and the subflow. And then we're going to go back to both the master and the subflow, do another quick review again. So if anything that doesn't make sense at the beginning, it should make sense at the end. And then we are going to build it from scratch to go into the absolute details, inshallah. So let's go. So this is the master flow. First thing is that we have a screen to collect the information. I have created 8 text screen components just to demonstrate one important thing related to the naming convention. This company name, this is company 1, this is also company 1, this is company 2, this is also company 2. The only difference here is the API name. If you see, this is company 1, 1 with letters. Now down here, this company 1 is company 1, 1 with a number instead. Now, which one would I prefer? I would prefer to use the company with the number for this reason. If you go anywhere to reference these screen components, if you look down here, you will see that the ones that are named with the numbers are ordered correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4. The ones that are not in the correct order, the ones that are in letters are not in the correct order. So we've got 1, and then you will have to look for 2, and then you will have to look for 3, and you will have to look for 4. Imagine if you have more than 4, then you will have to keep looking for them. That's why I prefer numbers over letters. Now let's just delete those. I just needed them to demonstrate this point. They're not going to be used in this flow. Deleting number 4 as well. All right, so this is the information that we need. We have 4 companies, 4 names. That's all we need. This is supposed to be next, not finish. So we'll just configure the footer and then change it to next instead. And we don't want to see the pause button. And we also don't need the previous button. So we've got it like this. We'll keep it at that. Then next we have the subflow. This is the exact same subflow, but we run it 4 times. We took the company name 1, company 1 name, company 2, and company 3, and company 4, and we stored those. Basically, they are stored automatically in the screen components. 1, 2, 3, and 4. For each subflow, we are going to send the company 1 text. This is from the screen components. Screen components, company 1. On the second one, we will send the company 2. So this is just the name. We are only sending the names over for the third and for the fourth. So same subflow, but we are running it 4 times. Let's look inside this subflow. I already opened it here. If you noticed that in the master flow, we are sending the company name and we are storing it in a variable in the subflow named subtext variable company. In the subflow, we only have one variable, which is subtext variable company. This variable is empty. So when the flow starts, it's empty. When it starts, it takes the variable from the master flow, whatever it is that we are sending. So the value in this variable depends on what we are sending from the master flow. On the master flow, we are sending company one in this one. So when we run this subflow, we are sending company one, which means this subflow will have company one only. On this one, it's company two. So it is the exact same variable, but this time when the flow starts over, it will have this value, company two. It's going to run for the third time from the very beginning, but then the value of this sub variable is going to be company 3, and then again company 4. Meaning this subflow here is going to run 4 times, but then the value inside subtext variable company is going to be different on all of those 4 times. For each time, it's going to be the company name that we are sending. In order for this to happen, in order for this variable to show up on the main or the master flow, it needs to be available for input. If you open it, you will see one option here, available for input. When you check this and you save the flow and you refresh the master flow, then when you click here, you will see this option showing up. You will select include to include this variable that you want to send over. In this case, we are sending company one. If you don't want to send anything, you don't have to include it. Right. So we are sending one variable or one name or whatever from the master flow to the subflow. In order to do that, the variable that's on the master flow needs to be available for output because it's going out of the master flow. And there must be another variable, different variable on the subflow to receive this variable. And the subflow variable needs to be available for input because the variable is going in, or the name or the value is going in the subflow. Let's take a look at this in a diagram. So this is the master flow that we have. We have one screen element and then we have 4 subflows. This is the subflow. We haven't gone through the subflow yet. In the subflow, there is one variable named subtext variable company. We need this variable to have a different value every time the subflow runs. This value for subflow 1 is going to be company 1. So we need to make company 1 available for output because it is going outside the main flow into the subflow. And we need the subtext variable company variable to be available for input. If you look at any, pretty much any variable, you will find that there is 2 options, available for output and available for input. What are those for? If you are sending it from this flow to another flow, let's go back here. If you are sending it outside the master flow, it needs to be available for output. If you are sending it, if you are taking something from outside the subflow, it's coming from outside inside the subflow, then it should be available for input. I hope this makes sense. The variable subtext variable company is going to have a different value depending on which subflow is running. If this one is running, it's going to have company 1. If this one is running, it's going to have company 2. If this one is running, it's going to have company 3. If this one is running, it's going to have company 4. And how do we decide the name of the company? From the subflow itself. You can decide it here. Right. Now let's look at the subflow, what it does. I'll go through this one quickly. For the now that we have the company name, we're going to get a company that has the same name as this name. And then we are going to check if this get element returns something or nothing. If it does return something, then don't do anything. If it does not return anything, it means that there is no account, and we are ready to create it. I created a record variable account, and then we are assigning the name into this record variable, and then we are creating this record variable. This process is going to happen for company 1, and then it's going to happen again for company 2, and then it's going to happen again for company 3 and 4. Now let's build this from scratch. I'm sorry that I'm going into details just to make sure that this is hopefully as clear as possible. Okay, so we'll create, we should create the subflow first. It doesn't have to be like you can create whatever. You can create the master flow first, but then at some point you will have to save and then go create the subflow and then come back to the master flow. It doesn't matter, you start anywhere, and whenever you need to go to create the other flow, do so. In this case, I will start with the subflow first. So I'd like to have a variable in which I will put the name of the company that I'm going to get later on from the master flow. So I will name it sub, because we are in subflow, and then this is a text variable, and it's going to have company 1. So this is a text variable, and I'll leave it at that for now. Like I said before, I'd like always the name to tell me everything that's going on. This is inside subflow, this is a text data type, this is a variable, and what does it store? It stores company 1. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be company 1, because we are going to have 4 different companies. It should be just general. The distinction of 1, 2, 3, 4 should be on the master flow, but then in the subflow, if it's going to be repeated, we are going to use the same subflow multiple times, then we don't have to give it a specific number, because this value is going to be different. So it's just the name of the company. Now let's assume that we've got the name of the company already. Let's get a company that has the same name. Sorry, get account or company. This is account, and the name of this account. The name of this account is text variable company. We've got the account. It should be stored in a record variable. You will notice that a record variable has been created automatically after the get element. Then we are going to have a decision element to check if this account exists or not. Decision, does account exist? Does the account exist or no? If it does, or if it doesn't. Does the account exist first? So this is get element. Now I don't want to check a field. I want to check the entire record. So I will click outside just to make sure that it is only the record altogether. Now this value, the record, is it null or not? If it is not null, it means there is a value. It means an account already exists. Now we have these two paths. An account exists, account doesn't exist. If there is an account, we don't want to do anything. If there is no account, we would like to create it. Now you can do one of two things here. You can create a record variable and then use an assignment to store the name inside the record variable. We have done this in a previous video. This time we are going to create it without having to use an assignment and without a record variable. Create a record, create account. Since we don't have a record variable, we'll choose the other option, which is use separate resources and literal values. We are creating an account in this case. What is the name of this account? It's going to be the text variable company name. So this is the subflow. Whenever I name a subflow, I would put the word subflow in it. So this is subflow create account if not exist. All right. Now this is the subflow. It's ready. You see, the subflow is waiting for only one thing. It's waiting for the value that should be inside text variable company. So when we go to the master flow, what we need to do is we need to send a value in here. In order to send a value in here, this variable should be accepting values. So it should be available for input. I will not mark it available for input for now to show you what it would like without it, and then I'll show you what it would like with it. One quick note here is that subflows and master flows, both of them must be activated in order for them to run. You can't have one that's not active and one that's active. You're going to get a warning, but then you will be able to run it anyway, but it's not going to run correctly without being activated. I don't remember what that was, so I'll just start a new one. Now this is going to be the master flow. This is where we are collecting the information. So I'm going to create a screen flow to collect the data from the user. We only need 4 companies, and just name them company 1, company 2, company 3, and company 4. Again, I'm using numbers just to so that it's easier to refer back to them. I will not make adjustments to the footer. You should already know how to do that by now. All right. Yeah. Okay. This is info screen. Now, let's. Next thing we need to do here is that now that we have the information, so we've got company 1, you see a screen component here with company 1, and the same for all companies. Now we've got the values and we are ready to send those values to the subflows. Let's create a subflow here, and let's choose the one that we created earlier. It would have the word subflow. Yeah, so create account if not exist, and then we can name the element, the subflow element, not the subflow itself, the subflow element inside the master flow. I'll just give it the same name, but then I will add the word 1 because this is for the first account. Now you see nothing is showing up here. The fact that there is nothing showing up here, it means that on this subflow there are no variables that are available for input. That's why nothing is showing up here. If we go to the subflow and then we mark the variable, any variable available for input, save both and do a refresh and come back here, you will see that there is an option to include or send a variable. So let's just create it without sending anything. We'll save. Master flow, create accounts. Right. Let's go to the subflow. And then we are going to make this subtext variable available for input. We need to save. I'll check. Okay, saved. Let's, you see, yeah, it's not active. When the subflow is not active, it's okay. You can save, you can run, but then you know that the subflow is not running. Without being active, it's not going to run. Now that we saved the subflow, let's refresh the master flow. Open the subflow element. Now you see that there is an option to include a value inside that variable, subtext variable company. It only showed up here because we made it available for input. What do we want to include here? Company 1 name. Yeah, so it's a screen component, company 1. Now that we have done this, we'd like to repeat the exact same process for all 4 of them. So I'll just copy the element and then paste it again. And I'd like to rename it to make sure that it is reflecting correctly. The reason we need to have good naming, not necessarily for us, we may understand what's going on, but then there may be a different Salesforce admin maintaining the org, a teammate who would like to check. So it's important to name them in a manner that helps them understand and descriptions and whatnot. And then, so for this subflow, so it is the exact same subflow, but then we are sending a different value this time, company 2. And I'm going to repeat the same thing again for the other 2 as well. So this is company 3. and this is company 4. Let's save and activate. I understand that the subflow is not active. We're going to activate it now. Developer activate. Now that this one is active, this one is active. Let's debug. And let's hope that we don't get errors. Okay, let's name the companies any, like, yeah, company Batata, and then company Batata 2, 3, and 4. Batata is potatoes in Arabic. Yeah, so let's see what happens. Now that the debug has finished, looking down here, screen to collect the information, the first subflow has run. So this is, you'll see two subflows, one of them when the subflow starts and another when the subflow finishes. So the subflow finishes here and starts here. So because I got confused the first time I saw this, I thought this was the second flow, but then this is the first flow, the beginning of the first flow, the end of the first flow, and then the second flow. We'll look at only one of them. This one has get records and then a decision and then create. And then this process is repeated. The only difference is that here the value, you see the subtext variable company is now company 1 when the first subflow ran, but then when it ran again the second time, what is it? The second time it's company 2, and then the third time it's company 3. Let's go and make sure that those have already been created. I bet this is a very long video. Company, so Batata 1, Batata 2, 3, and 4. So we've got all 4 companies. Let's debug again with the same names to make sure that it doesn't go create them again. And then next, it has finished. Let's do a refresh. You see the batata the same, there is no other batatas there. You can also double check what happened in the debug as well. Subflows are amazing. As you can see, we could have built the same elements in the subflow, so like 1, 2, 3, 3 elements, and instead of having to do the 3 elements 4 times, so you know that's a lot of times. And imagine if you have more than 4 companies. Imagine if you are creating 10 companies. Now I want to point out that one thing we can do is that we can create a collection variable and add the names of those companies using an assignment into the collection variable. I just use one create to create the collection variable. This is a very easy way to do it. It's different from creating a subflow. The reason I wanted to use subflows in this case because there are more capabilities of the subflows that we can use later on. I'll explain one of those just now. Imagine that, you know, like, because this is a situation that happened with me. Imagine that you would like to get the ID of the account that you are creating for whatever reason. One thing you can do after create is that you can click manually assign variables and then take the ID. I'm sorry, it's going to take the ID. So store account ID. This is the only value that you're going to get from this account that's being created. Now that you have the ID, you can create a new resource variable and store that ID in it. Once you have that ID in a variable, you can then use that ID later on anywhere else. So this is one of the benefits of using Subflow. So you can use Subflows, you can use a collection variable. It depends on your use case and what you need to do with the Subflow. I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't, please reach out to me. Let's talk. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can talk to me in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.